Hafa and aloha. Welcome to today's Guam Green Growth Working Group meeting. I'm Lauren Swedell, the Guam Green Growth Coordinator from the University of Guam Center for Island Sustainability, and I'll be moderating today's meeting. Thank you for joining us. Today, we are pleased to have a special presentation from our partners in Island Sustainability community team. They will share their processes with us in developing the Aloha Challenge Dashboard, an open data platform to track progress, provide accountability, and ensure transparency on Hawaii's sustainable goals. As a founding member of the Local 2030 Islands Network, Guam Green Growth is partnering with Hawaii Green Growth to implement a similar dashboard for Guam to track the progress on the goals outlined in the G3 Action Framework, our island's most comprehensive action plan ever created to achieve a sustainable future. Joining our Guam Green Growth Working Group for today's presentation are our partners from Micronesia Challenge, who are interested in the dashboard model to track progress of the Micronesia Challenge 2030. Before we begin, I'd like to recognize the presence of the Honorable Lulian Guerrero, Governor of Guam, the Honorable Joshua Tenorio, Lieutenant Governor of Guam, the University of Guam President, Thomas W. Kreis, and the many distinguished cabinet members of the Lulian Guerrero Tenorio administration. Now I'd like to welcome Governor Lulian Guerrero, who serves as the chair of the Guam Green Growth Work Initiative, to give opening remarks.
Half a day and aloha. I just wanted to welcome everybody to this working group and appreciate the work and the efforts that they have put in to help us develop a sustainable dashboard data information system so that we can all continue to work on the same page and be consistent and continuity. When we launched the Guam Green Growth Working Group last year, we knew we could not see results right away. But we also were very encouraged to learn about the fruits of our labor, not just now, but in the near future. And I know that we have been very active working here with our sustainability group, as led by also our Lieutenant Governor and Austin Shelton. People from both the public and the private sectors and from all industries came together to work with us on this framework for sustainable development. And this action framework is what we are using. And this dashboard that we would like to also have is, I think, a very good positive step in making sure that we, again, have information at our fingertips. During the G3 Action Framework signing event, Governor Ige, of course, from Hawaii, a friend and a colleague, made a commitment to share your dashboard, Hawaii dashboard, with the G3 initiative, highlighting the importance of regional cooperation and partnership in tackling global issues like climate change. I think with this dashboard, the public can monitor, like I said, and track our island's progress towards the goals outlined in our G3 Action Framework, keeping all of us accountable. The Aloha Challenge Dashboard, which we are going to be presenting today, is an online open data information. While it was initially created to track progress and ensure transparency on Hawaii's sustainability goals, Esri Honolulu is devoted to sharing the benefits and functionality of ArcGIS with the US Pacific Islands. With the dashboard, GIS users from across Hawaii and the US Pacific Islands are able to learn, share, and become part of an active community focused on using geospatial technologies to solve our island's growing challenges. The Aloha Challenge Dashboard is a step towards creating our own local dashboard that fits our needs and works with our goals. I want to extend again my deepest appreciation to the Hawaii Green Growth Local2030 Hub and our island's green growth initiatives for working with our G3 group. We said very often that no island is an island anymore, and this partnership, this networking shows that we can accomplish a lot by working together. Sidzu is Maasi again, and I look forward to some great things.
Thank you, Governor Leon Guerrero, for your opening remarks and for your leadership in the G3 initiative and your dedication to the sustainability of our island. Now, I'd like to invite Dr. Austin Shelton, the Director of the University of Guam's Center for Island Sustainability and G3 Steering Committee Co-Chair, to provide a brief update on the G3 initiative.
Thank you, Lauren, and thank you very much, Governor Leon Guerrero, for your continued leadership in island sustainability and driving the Guam Green Growth initiative forward. The University of Guam greatly appreciates playing a key role to facilitate this process for our island in close coordination with you and Lieutenant Governor Joshua Tenorio. Hafa to our special guests with us today and to all of our G3 working group members. In 2019, Guam took a big step coming to the global forefront of leadership in island sustainability. And this happened in large part thanks to the support of our partners joining us here today, the Hawai I Green Growth Local2030 Islands Hub, and the Global Island Partnership. They welcomed us as founding members of the Local2030 Islands Network during the United Nations General Assembly Week in 2019, and we've been making great progress ever since. Following that event, Governor Leon Guerrero formed the Guam Green Growth Working Group and appointed 97 members representing all sectors of society. In September of last year, she and Lieutenant Governor formally signed and adopted the G3 Action Framework, as Governor Leon Guerrero mentioned. And this framework really became our island's most comprehensive action plan ever created to achieve our sustainable future. Thank you to all of our working group members here today who continue to generously contribute their time, knowledge, and expertise in this ambitious effort to ensure Guam has a sustainable, equitable, and prosperous future. We look forward now to learning about the Aloha Challenge Dashboard model so we too can transparently track tangible progress on the G3 Action Framework. Thank you all again for your presence here today. Let's continue pushing our local actions to achieve global impact. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Shelton, for your update on the G3 initiative. Now I'd like to introduce our presenters. The Hawai I Green Growth Local2030 Hub is a leader in sustainability and island-led solutions. Hawai I Green Growth manages the internationally recognized Aloha Challenge Dashboard on an Esri GIS platform. A bright spot example to follow, the Aloha Challenge Dashboard was developed through a multi-year process that engaged hundreds of diverse public, private, and community stakeholders across the state. Joining us from Hawai I Green Growth, we have Executive Director Celeste Connors and Dashboard and Partnerships Manager Kamana Bingham. From Esri Honolulu, we have Community Building Account Manager Todd Kingman and Solution Engineer Gretchen Chiquez. Following the presentation, we'll have a question and answer period. Please use the chat feature to send questions to the Q&A moderator during the presentation. Now I'll turn it over to Hawai I Green Growth. Oh, excuse me, sorry. Actually, we will see a quick video from Hawai I Green Growth on the Aloha Challenge Dashboard and their 2020 benchmarks. Aloha and Hafaday Celeste. Take it away.
Hafaday, Lauren, and aloha. Aloha Governor Leon Guerrero, Lieutenant Governor Tenorio, members of the G3 Steering Committee, G3 Working Group, the Micronesia Challenge, members of the Local 2030 Islands Network, and friends. Thank you for the invitation to share about Hawai Green Growth Local 2030 Hub's experience in developing the Aloha Plus Challenge Dashboard. We were delighted to participate in the launch of the G3 Action Framework last year, and we're pleased to be able to follow through with Governor Ige and Hawaii's commitment to partner with Guam. We're also pleased to engage members of the Guam delegation at the Local 2030 Islands Network event at the 2019 United Nations General Assembly in New York. And really, congratulations on all of your hard work to date. It is our pleasure to share with you today, and we'll be starting our slides in just a moment here. By way of background, we wanted to share the network slide. So maybe, Laura, if we can go to the next slide to share with you a little bit about what is Hawai Green Growth. We're a network-based organization like you of over currently 150 public and private sector partners, individuals, and institutions in Hawaii committed to stewarding our precious natural resources, cultural, human resources by advancing economic, social, and environmental goals. By way of background, our history is rooted in the Asia Pacific Economic Cooperation meeting in Honolulu in 2011. And it was at this meeting that there was an agreed focus on green growth. Similar to today, as we are emerging from the COVID crisis, leaders at that time made a commitment following the 2008 financial crisis with members of the Organization of Economic Cooperation Development and APEC to emerge from that crisis through a green growth economic recovery. And today we have that same opportunity, post-COVID, to build back greener, more resilient, and more equitable as a result of the frameworks that we are putting in place today, the HGG framework, the G3 framework. So according to the OECD, green growth means fostering economic growth and development while ensuring that natural assets continue to provide the resources and environmental services on which our well-being relies. And so that's actually an important point today, as I mentioned, with our recovery. And what we're talking about today in the opportunity is really islands inspiring other islands. In fact, as I said, we're delighted that we have members of the Micronesia Challenge here today because, in fact, the Aloha Plus Challenge was actually which inspired the Caribbean Challenge, the best challenge in Europe, all really facilitated by the Global Island Partnership. And it was in 2014 that Hawaii launched the Aloha Plus Challenge, which links this challenge to the similar challenges that we have on the call today. And each of these island-led initiatives have been strengthened by other islands. As the governor mentioned, islands are working together, and we really want to thank all of our partners for the work they've done today to allow us to get to where we are. The Aloha Plus Challenge is connected to the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. In fact, our platform was launched in 2014, which predates the 2015 date when the United Nations SDGs were actually agreed. So Hawaii's model builds on a legacy of indigenous knowledge and systems thinking and island values. And it also builds on Hawaii's leadership on climate change and clean energy commitments. We were delighted that it was Hawaii's legislature at that time that actually put forward a resolution launching the Aloha Plus Challenge with then Governor Abercrombie and all of our 4 county mayors. And now Governor Ige has actually taken a leadership role, has endorsed the Aloha Plus Challenge and the United Nations SDGs as a framework for our recovery and insurance against future shocks. We also have the endorsement of all 4 of our county mayors and have actually been able to transition this initiative through different administrations because of the strength of the partnership. I'd like to share a little bit about the methodology briefly because I'd like to allow our dashboard manager, Kaimana, to share more about the metrics and the indicators, which I know that you're interested in now because you've gotten to this point in your convening as well. But to share a bit about the process, that we measure what matters, that we had a sequential plan outlined here to really develop these community-driven goals. So it was a process of short-term consensus building to develop long-term goals, which is actually really important that islands are showing leadership in this. So it was timed and sequenced. In this process, we had metrics and indicators and goals. We had criteria that they must be actionable, they must be measurable and practical. They need to be scalable, ready. There needs to be continuity in reporting and available data. They need to be relevant, and they need to actually reflect our host culture values. As part of this, we established measures teams, and there was a criteria for who would be on the measures team, a criteria for who would be a core team member, really reflected in their commitment to action and to the overall process, and our technical expert team. When we talk about going back to the dashboard, if we can go to the next slide, Laura. Oh, sorry. Let's go to the next slide here. Right. So this is actually an iterative process. Somebody at one point in our group described it as a sing-along song, where you start at one place and you come back to it. And I think what's actually critically important is that while we develop these metrics and indicators that are, that align with the 17 SDGs, we have 6 priority areas. We're tracking 37 targets and 200 plus community-based indicators. We need to constantly go back to make sure we are measuring what matters. So in this slide, you can see how we do our work going forward. We have on the vertical the 6 priority areas, and horizontally it's the working groups that we convene. Each of these convening quarterly. In some, we convene around 50 meetings a year. In fact, just this morning, we convened our policy and legislation working group, and we had over 70 members on that call that were talking about their legislative priorities, their policy priorities as we enter into the legislative session. And each of these were different issues, whether it was invasive species or clean energy or digital equity. All of these members came together and they're supporting each other. And from this network process, we have these different outcomes and outputs, such as the voluntary local review. And so what tracking these outcomes on the dashboard, it allows for transparency, accountability, and integrity. And so if we go to the slide that shows our voluntary local review, this is an example of actually something we launched in December last year, so just last month. It's a 2020 benchmark report. So what this does is captures 6 years of data that we've been working on together as a partnership, which is reflected daily on the dashboard. But it pulls us in one place, and it says, some of our colleagues have said sometimes COVID feels like the ceiling's falling in on you at the same time the floor is falling out from under us. But what this report does is it establishes benchmark data. It establishes a 2020 baseline from which we can recover. And so this is also serving as our voluntary local review to show progress against the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. It's the first statewide VLR in the United States, and it's led by an island. So we're really pleased with that. This was actually released by Governor Ige and Senator Brian Schatz at an event at the UN General Assembly, focused on American leadership on the SDGs, hosted by the Brookings Institution and the United Nations Foundation, the UN Foundation, which really highlights the importance of subnational leadership. And this has actually led to Hawaii being recognized as a hub for sustainability solutions. And it's in that way that we launched the Local 2030 Islands Network that Austin mentioned earlier. And we're delighted Guam is a founding partner of the Local 2030 Islands Network. I really love this photo. It was taken actually in 2019 at the United Nations with Hawaii and Guam, and also Curacao and the Philippines represented there. And it just shows the diversity of island economies that can come together and make incredible things happen for island Earth. I genuinely believe that islands have the ability to quickly scale replicable solutions that actually are relevant to major economies, and particularly against the backdrop of the new administration. We're really delighted to work with you to actually scale island innovation. So let me hand this over now to my colleague Kaimana, who will walk us through the process of the dashboard. Mahalo.
Hi, can everyone hear me? Thank you. So I would just like to, I'm having some technical difficulties with my mouse. It's not letting me click into the shared screen presentation. So I don't know, Laura, if you could go back to the slide for the dashboard, please. Okay, so this is an overview, a snapshot of our dashboard, our Aloha Plus dashboard, and it focuses on our 6 goals and their respective target areas. Laura, if you could click the Aloha Plus Goals dashboard and then bring that link up, I'm going to give you a quick demo of how our dashboard works. And I would just like to take a moment also to congratulate Guam on their G3 framework. And I know that there's a lot of alignment because of the SDGs. And I wanted to focus on something that I thought paralleled really well with our dashboard and what we hope to see on your dashboard. And that would be the clean energy goal. So Laura, if you could just scroll down. This is our overall dashboard. We can drop it in the link in the chat so that you guys have a chance to participate. But I just want to give you guys a chance to really get a full demo of how we use this, our dashboard as a tool and as a mechanism to our decision makers and to the general community. So as you see on our screen, the clean energy transformation is one of our 6 goals. We will dive into the electricity renewable efficiency target, which you can click here, and it brings you into all of the target area and all of the indicators that go into this metric. Yep, so if you scroll down. So you see number 1, electricity, renewable energy and efficiency is one of our renewable targets that is associated with our clean energy transformation. Laura, would you click into that for me? Thank you. All right, so our goal and how we measure it and how we communicate, how we use all of our really rich data that our data and measures working group uses against our 2030 timeline is the percent of the renewable energy generated statewide. And the wonderful thing about us using the Esri platform is that over the past 6 years where we've worked on this data, the most recent report that we pulled from was 2019, is we can actually spotlight and highlight where this data is coming from, how we're tracking it, and how we're delivering it against our 2030 goals. So you see, we're on track at 29.79% to meet our 40% renewable energy goal. That's what this is telling us. This is what this chart is. It shows our progress from the past, how we're on track to the future. And that's really at a high level what we want to leverage, to use, to communicate to these decision makers, to the general public, where we are, what behavioral change is needed to advance to where we need to be. That is a really incredible thing about data visualization. Spreadsheets are amazing. I have a tech background, I understand them, but a way to really engage, and what is really great about this dashboard and this platform is all of that information gets translated into a way that is accessible for everyone to read into, to dive into, and it's vetted, you know, and it's coming from our community, which I know Celeste has focused on. So if you want to scroll down a little bit. This is where we're trying to bring it all together. This describes that chart, how the 29.9% was pulled from our data sources, vetted by our data and measures working group, and how we're aligning to our 40% goal. Yep. And this is our renewable portfolio standards dashboard. This is a plugin of our technology platform where it further breaks down that data. It tells you by utility, by county. If you want to scroll down a little bit more, from a graph level, a chart level, and then in the details tab, right? Sorry, go scroll up a little bit more. And then right next to charts, there's details. And it gives you all of that a really great text descriptive of where we're pulling and sourcing the data from. So cohesively, you know, you have your high level dashboard with your 6 goals. And with each target area, you can drill down and really understand what is being put into this high level, very attractive dashboard, and really source where your data is coming from. And I think that that is the really, really beautiful and important thing. And then if you click to the top, Laura, the clean energy transformation, it links you right back to that goal. And if you scroll down, you'll see how this goal also aligns with the SDGs. Yeah, so right here, our clean energy transformation is synced right to our SDG goals and all of our targets and indicators that support the overall SDG goals and how they correlate. So there's a wealth of information on this platform, and I definitely wanted to give everyone who hasn't had a chance to really dive deep into it, an overall tutorial of how we've built that, how we are trying to communicate it, how we are visualizing that data to best serve our community. And we hope that, you know, it serves as a good model for other islands to adopt and really give decision makers and the general public access and transparency into all the work that's being done behind the scenes, which of course, Guam, you guys have already succeeded in doing all of that legwork, and we're just really excited for you guys to get your dashboard up. So then if you want to go back to the slides, we can just touch base on my last two. Yeah, so this is a high level screenshot of what we just dove into with our SDGs and how they relate to our 6 goals. And like I said, Guam, you've already built that framework connecting your 5 action items to your sustainable development goals. So this is just another high level overview of what we just showcased in our demo. And then another really cool touch point that I wanted to focus on with COVID-19, as we've all experienced handling that, we put out a network-wide survey where actually our network could communicate to us and actually put down projects that relate to the SDGs and our community that would further develop green growth recovery. And there's also a link to that. You can I think I'm close on time, but you guys can take a look at that. Really great information. Another way that we can leverage our platform with this Esri-based technology to engage in the community further, to further develop our sustainability goals. And I think I might be at time, so I'll stop there. And I see that there's some conversation in the chat, and I'll be happy to communicate back to that. Thank you.
Thank you, Kaimana. And now we'll turn it over to Todd and Gretchen.
Okay. Can everyone see my screen when I'm sharing the presentation?
Yes, Todd.
Excellent. So Hafa Day and aloha, everyone. Mahalo, Governor Guerrero, Lieutenant Governor Tenorio, Lauren, Austin, and to the Guam and Hawaii community who are engaged in making a difference. My name is Todd Kingman, and I work for Esri in Honolulu. And I am an account manager supporting customers in Hawaii and the Pacific region. I work with Gretchen Chiquez out of our Honolulu office, and she provides technical support as a solution engineer. We really appreciate having the opportunity to talk to you today about Arcgis Hub, which is Esri's community engagement platform, and how it can help Government of Guam and Guam Green Growth to collaborate, communicate, and engage with the public. If you're not familiar with Esri, we are a world leader in geospatial information systems and location intelligence technology. So there are certain aspects about our community that are important to us all. Things like resiliency, affordability, safety, and health, especially considering the challenges we face during these unusual times. These are global challenges that Hawaii and Guam Green Growth, the state of Hawaii, the government of Guam are looking to address through the adoption of the SDGs. Which brings us to what we'd like to talk to you about today. Arcgis Hub is a platform which can help to address these complex challenges. It is Esri's all-inclusive community engagement platform that supports data sharing, helps structure initiatives, and can inspire action among the community. First, data sharing. Hub provides you with the ability to share data on a common platform. This makes data collection and sharing more streamlined and efficient for large organizations. The data can be used internally, but also can be shared publicly. Next, inclusive collaboration. Arcgis Hub provides better collaboration with communities, governments, and universities. Hub also provides a mechanism for the community to participate in events, be heard, and submit feedback. This allows the public to contribute to shared goals that they're interested in. And inspire action. Arcgis Hub also inspires stakeholders to do their own analysis and provide a modern approach to community building. It's a platform to encourage people to be a part of territory, state, or global initiatives, such as the Earth Day Challenge, which promotes citizen science. So the government of Guam currently has Arcgis Hub basic licensing as part of an enterprise agreement, which extends off of their Arcgis online platform. Most of what was set up for the Aloha Challenge Dashboard uses basic functionality, specifically sites and pages, open data, applications like story maps and dashboards that Kaimana shared just a moment ago. Arcgis Hub Premium includes community identities that can join teams, provide feedback, and follow key initiatives. They can also create applications and participate to goals and sustainability efforts that they care about. It also provides a way to manage and communicate about public events. Arcgis Hub Premium includes, so there's some of the additional functionality that's included. There's much benefit that can be realized by leveraging the broader community. You can establish public participation and consensus, provide a platform for multiple sectors to contribute to real-time authoritative data sharing, align resources to avoid problems caused by duplication of effort, and Hub is a powerful platform to support the local level implementation of the SDGs. At the global level, the UN has been supporting member states' implementation of SDGs through Arcgis Hub. Countries who have stood up instances of Hub include the Philippines, Ireland, and the United Arab Emirates. This provides a way to structure and manage metrics at the national level around SDGs. What started with more of an open data approach has evolved into actionable initiatives and narrative behind national implementation of SDGs, just like what you see going on at the local level with Hawaii Green Growth in the state of Hawaii. Data sharing using Hub also helps organizations like NGOs to align more closely with government entities. So let's talk about the great work that's been accomplished by Hawaii Green Growth in the state of Hawaii. About a year and a half ago, Hawaii Green Growth reached out to us based on interest in using Esri technology to support local level implementation of the SDGs. It was actually a perfect coincidence as we had been talking internally about how we thought Hub could be used, how Hub has been used at the national level for SDGs, and capabilities of the platform could support community action at the local level in support of the state of Hawaii and Hawaii Green Growth. What's really exciting about the Aloha Challenge Dashboard is that it's the first sub-national level SDGs using Arcgis Hub to share local level goals and metrics. It establishes a framework and adoptable model that's relevant to local level implementation. Focuses on meaningful goals, which you can drill down to explore which global SDGs support those goals. Puts front and center indicators to monitor, track, and measure successful implementation of each goal, which government leadership has found to be very effective. The Aloha Dashboard aligns with local efforts globally, global SDGs to share data, metrics, which can potentially roll up to the national and global level. So So the Aloha Plus Challenge also uses Arcgis applications to help provide rich context to complex data. Dashboards help to show trends, track performance, and interact with multiple data sources. Story maps allow you to develop a narrative and immersive experience, which helps engage the public with important causes. Web map applications help to provide a geographic reference to data that has location elements, whether that data is a precise location, a village, or a region. It makes the data meaningful to the public and encourages the community to be involved and engaged. So I'm going to go ahead and hand things off to my colleague Gretchen. She's going to dig a little bit deeper into examples of the different applications that support Hawai Green Growth and other customers, and how far you can take some of these applications.
Hello, everyone. So I'm going to be sharing with you some components of the technologies. Can everybody see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. So first, I'm going to talk about story maps. First, second, about dashboard, and then some of the web applications that are embedded and how everything comes together in Hub. As we mentioned before, can you see the Guam government portal? Yes. So Guam currently has access to all the technology available to set up a hub similar to Aloha Plus Challenge. IIS Online is currently managed by OTEC, which is the Guam Office for Technology, and we work closely with Nicole Nelson and support her in the administration of the platform. From here, when you log into your ArcGIS Online, you can access the different applications that help to build the page. We have the dashboard that gives us the metrics and score. We have the hub that helps to set up the large page. And we have the story maps. Let's take a look into a story map. This story map was created by a partnership between the federal government and the local state agency to educate the communities about native species disease that is increasing the mortality around this native spring, the Ohia tree. In here, there is a narrative with beautiful pictures and maps integrated to help to give a big picture, a more compelling story of what is the issue at hand. Because the technology is integrated on the cloud, you can not only have a static map, you can also have real-time data that is being fed to servers that is currently happening on the field. Like in this map, these dots represent survey when the staff goes to the field and fill up and see the mortality rate between the native plant. They also use a story map to engage the public, the community, and what you can do at the individual level. Another example of a story map is this one that was published by Forbes. It talks about ocean justice. In here, we have a narrative that is also enhanced with media, including videos from YouTube, to help to compel the message of what is happening. It also integrates map to understand the big picture and what is happening at a global level, but also takes us to a local level, and we can explore the different incidents around the world in an interactive way that can help the public, that we can use to help to educate the public. The other part of the technology that is important within the Aloha Plus Challenge is the dashboard. And Guam is already using this technology with the Guam COVID dashboard that is maintained by the Guam Department of Public Health and Social Services. In the dashboard here that we have different components. We have the indicators, we have graphic, and we have a map. And graphics and maps are very interactive. If we can just want to see what is the cases, we can interact with this data. We can also interact with the map and understand what is happening on the ground. Dashboard can be customized to whatever indicators you want to show, charts, and graph. So here in the Aloha Plus Challenge, what it was done is they took the dashboard technology and they configured that it shows the scorecards, which mean that we are focusing on these goals, and this is what we want to present. They also embed study maps and web app within the pages. Here is an interactive graph about commuting. I just want to see what are all the different areas, excluding the people who are driving along. And we can interact with the data. And that's the power of dashboard. And the community engagement part. As Kamaina mentioned before, we have the actions of the community. With the community profiles within our GIS Hub allows you to provide these community identities, for example, to the village leaders, mayors, nonprofits like Girl Scouts, Boy Scouts, and people in the community that are important stakeholders that they will also be contributing to the Guam Green Growth and to achieve the goals. The Hub technology allows to have government and agencies working together to a common goal. Todd, back to you.
Okay, thank you very much, Gretchen. So we appreciate having the opportunity to share today about how Esri technology can help the government of Guam and Guam Green Growth. We're really excited to be able to support you to track and realize your actionable goals. And congratulations on how far you've come with establishing the framework and methodology to help with the local implementation of the sustainability goals. Thank you.
You're on mute, Lauren.
Oh, can you hear me now? Okay. Thank you, Celeste, Kaimana, Todd, and Gretchen for your presentation. The work on the dashboard looks great, and your collective years of work on the Aloha Plus Challenge is truly incredible. You've done inspiring work, and we thank you for sharing your process with Guam Green Growth, Micronesia Challenge, and potentially other island and green growth initiatives who are interested in establishing a dashboard of their own. We look forward to continuing this work together. Now we'll open up the meeting for questions from G3 and the Micronesia Challenge members. I'd first like to offer the first opportunity to the Governor and Lieutenant Governor of Guam.
I just wondered whether or not you are able to track the traffic onto the site and to maybe determine what level of interest that the community has in going into the dashboard.
Hi, yes, thank you for that question. I can answer that from a data standpoint. We do have a Google Analytics link that is embedded in the site, which allows us to track what is being clicked into, what's being drilled down per day, per goal. So that's kind of how we measure the dashboard analytics. That's something that we just implemented recently, I think November of last year. So we are currently tracking that and to gauge interest in what the community is looking into. Something that we didn't quite speak to is a community shared calendar that we are going to work through this upcoming year. And we're really excited about that feature. And I think that that will further progress our community engagement from a dashboard standpoint.
I just wanted to ask the Hawaii people, when you guys started your dashboard, what did you do? Did you meet with various people to decide what kinds of indicators do you put up there? You know, because the dashboard could be a whole bunch of a lot of things. And how did you decide what would be much more, I guess, realistic? So I was just thinking, I know Austin said that he's looking at the dashboard. but I don't know whether you, in establishing it, worked with a committee or worked with a group of people that would decide what's going to be on the dashboard.
Yeah, I might be able to take the first crack at answering that, Governor. And that's a great question because it was a process, right? It was about a 3-year initial sort of lifting the canoe, as we say, and then, now we're moving through this more iterative process through the working group. But initially it was that, determining if you're going to measure something, we measure what matters. And so going into the community, we convened across each one of our 4 counties, different meetings. So each county actually got to host the convening around one of the goals. So maybe it was local food on Hawaii Island, and it was education and workforce on Maui. And they were usually 2-day convenings where we engaged the local county partners, as well as different civil society partners and business partners. So typical seating arrangement of these 2-day convenings would actually be an airline executive sitting next to the county waste manager, sitting next to somebody representing the university. And we intentionally made it so it was cross-sectoral. So even if we were focused on local food, we made sure the waste people were there, the energy people were there, the education people were there. And I think in the true spirit of an island economy, first everybody wanted to establish, hey, wait a minute, do we share the same values? Are my values your values? And the fact that we had this values-based framework, which was really grounded in Hawaii's host culture values, then we could move to the next stage of the conversation. But a lot of it was exactly that, in a sense, taking a landscape analysis of the existing data. So the criteria we came up with is that, as I mentioned, it had to be actionable, measurable, and practical, were the musts have. The highly desirable might have been scalability, if they were ready, if we were ready, if the community was ready to track progress in that area. If there was continuity, in other words, sometimes a report was written every 3 years, that's not as helpful as something that becomes is more regularly available, and it needed to be relevant, and I said aligned with our values. So just one specific example with climate change, we wanted to track our climate goals, and we've set up a climate commission to do that. And yet everybody was in agreement. Let's not wait for the climate commission to determine what our Hawaii climate goals will be. Let's take the interim President Obama's goal of the 2005 base year. And so we were able to track progress and go back to that. Just quickly, on the second point, very initially, we had a measures team, and then we had a core team, and we had the technical expert team. So in that, we were really getting folks that were willing to work on each sector, the terminology, the data, and the overall dashboard. I think in the case of, and this predates the SDGs, as I said, so sometimes we were looking at different platforms and where we could have that data regime. I think the benefit of looking at the SDGs as a framework, and certainly we're delighted that you are really first and foremost looking at what Guam's 6 priority areas are, because we think that for us, our experience has been, it resonates much more with the community. I saw in the chat a question about the community. It's really hard in an island context, and I would highly advise against it, to go and say, hey, you should adopt this framework that was agreed in 2015, as opposed to approaching the community and said, hey, actually, what you've been practicing for many, many years, grounded in local knowledge, is actually been recognized as relevant to the global community. And now they would like you to share that. So that's why I think it's great that you've also taken the approach to look at what is relevant to you. And so that was the initial convening, but we did do it by each goal. The objective of those meetings were to determine the high-level metric and the indicator. And then it was intentionally cross-sectoral so that we were grounded in reality, right? We even had a meeting this morning to say, we want solar energy, but then we had the ag folks there say, that's great, but there's certain land that you can't actually establish the solar panels on because that's for ag only, but there's certain kind of ag land that you can do that. And so in so doing, we saved a lot of time. I hope that answered the question. It was a process. It is a process. And the process is the fulfilling part in the end.
Thank you. That was helpful.
If I could just apply one more example to show how it's a living thing, even the United Nations Statistics Office will gather at least once a year to vet the different metrics and indicators to make sure it's still relevant. I think what we do by meeting quarterly, our measures working group meeting quarterly, we have found, for example, we need better gender metrics. We need better digital equity metrics. We also had some of our kapuna, our cultural leaders, approach us and say, we want to be able to track the wahi kapuna, the area where there are really important cultural sites on the dashboard. And what we do in each of these cases is we get the experts around that particular goal to convene, come up with some suggested metrics and indicators that they can bring to like the G3 working group or the HGG working group. So we kind of put our experts to work as well. You're the food expert. What do you think are some relevant food goals based on the best available data and what you're seeing? And how would you like to see that data appear on the dashboard? What is visually compelling?
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. We have a lot of work to do, but I think we'll get there.
It's hard to see progress sometimes. I should say a comment as I look at everyone around, and particularly your leadership. It is just really extraordinary. It is really unique, and I'm sure our colleagues that we have on the call from the Local 2030 Island Network, the formula that you have right here in this room with the experts and the political leadership, and now with the data platform, is what we call the special sauce in the formula to accelerate action. And so having myself personally worked at the federal level in the previous Biden and Obama White House, always wondering, you set these high-level goals, we negotiate the Paris Agreement, where does the action actually happen? The rubber hits the road at the local level. And to really see myself, my island, I grew up in Hawaii, and fellow islanders leading in this space is really exciting. So it may seem like a lot of work, but you are actually much farther ahead than many of the other communities that we've worked with.
Thank you, Celeste.
And we have a question from Dr. Ricky Hernandez, who is the Deputy Administrator of the Guam International Airport Authority and co-chair of the G3 Dashboard and Public Engagement Team.
Oh, half a day, everyone. Thanks, Governor, Lieutenant Governor, Dr. Shelton, Lauren, as well as you, Celeste, Kaimana, and Todd and Gretchen for your really good presentations. You know, in co-leading the G3 dashboard and coordinating, trying to help coordinate this, and just thinking, I have a couple questions, but I first like to just say that I liked your canoe analogy because, you know, in canoeing, you need to get it to kind of get engaged, you have to, there's a lot of work up front. And then as you start gliding, then hopefully things, you know, are able to kind of move smoothly. But I just had 3 questions, one of which is just really my accounting background kicking in. I'm just wondering what type of funding support did you have from either the local government or the business community to be able to create this dashboard, to be able to fund the programs that that your group is funding? So that's my first question. And then I'll just kind of wrap up the second question, just being that, you know, obviously with data gathering and input and the availability and accessibility of that electronically, I'm wondering how is the data being inputted for each of the specific metrics that Hawaii has decided on? So those are my 2 questions. I have a third one, but if I know that there's a lot of time, not a lot of time, but if you could just help me with just understanding the funding side of everything, and then as well as the data input side.
Yeah, I'll answer the funding question hopefully pretty quickly and then hand it over to Kaimana on the data question. So thank you, Ricky. Funding, you know, funding is both the thing that supports the network and the actions and all of your work, but it's also buy-in. Right, so we get support for the dashboard from our counties. We also get some state funding and philanthropic funding, and now business sector funding, and I can explain this, and federal funding. Now, we also attract funding from these sources and then further distribute it to those same partners to achieve their goals. So then we are able to attract grants that can allow our counties to implement their sustainability work. And so the monies flow both ways, which is great. And our effort is to try and attract outside resources. One thing to note on the private sector, we convene a sustainability business forum, Hawai Green Growth, the network of with 25, or actually 26 now, of our CEOs. And these are our publicly traded companies and privately held companies. They include Hawaiian Airlines, HECO, our utilities, our banks, our airlines. They have committed to the Aloha Plus Challenge and to the SDGs because it aligns with their environment, social governance metrics. So that's actually a reason for them. They want to be tracked on the dashboard. They want also to show their transparency. So they are supporting through this platform. But one thing we would just love to engage G3 in with a broader conversation is how we hui up, as we say in Hawaii. How do we get together and really go for more federal support for islands in the work? And I'm also speaking now to our Micronesia Challenge colleagues and also Caribbean Challenge colleagues. So we've been successful in getting some federal funding for this. And the reason being is because, as I mentioned, it's short-term consensus building for long-term goals. And it's the accountability and transparency that we're bringing to our own process that's community-driven and at the national level, nationally driven, to show where we're actually putting our money and how those programs are successful or not, and then how we would, so the transparency is important. So I would be excited to engage in a further conversation about enhanced federal funding to support Guam and Hawaii's efforts. Let me hand it over to Kaimana for the question about how we actually pull in, as I understand it, Ricky, the data from different sources into the dashboard, if I understood that correctly.
Yeah, Ricky, that's a great question. So the way we manage our data right now is internal with HGG. We do go through a vetted process with our data and measures working group. It's all open data that's sourced from annual reports mostly. We try to get the vetted data that's already pulled from reports. We kind of track when it's released, how often it's released, and we do that through the data and measures working group. And then we import the data into our platform with a generic CSV file. I don't know if that's too technically specific, but it's pretty general spreadsheet format, and it's already open data. So that's kind of how we collect it based on the vetting process through our data and measures working group. Does that answer your question?
No, that's perfect. I was just wondering the challenges that you guys faced in terms of, I know that you have a lot of metrics that are still being measured, and are you know, there might be some metrics that we have here that are, you know, there's no historical data, or we'd have to go in and ask certain agencies or certain entities to give us the raw data or data that's on manual sheets of paper, just things like that. I'm just wondering what challenges you were facing in terms of gathering that data, and then also obviously the manpower converting that into the system.
Yeah. Oh, Celeste, did you want to?
No, I was going to say, I think it is time consuming. And what we're trying to do, and Kaimana actually is recently coming from state government, so we're delighted to have her on the other side. It's how are we reverse engineering this and actually encouraging, therefore, more streamlined reporting mechanisms, and let's not put everything into a PDF. And how do we actually, so I think in a way we're bringing additional coherence to an overall process, but in the interim, in the short term, it is a little bit like trying to have deal with data governance challenges. Kaimana, I think you've encountered that as well.
Yeah, and I think, you know, this is a learning process, and we would definitely like to streamline our data, create a workflow where it pulls it from the most relevant source, so we're not doing it as manually. I mean, that's the goal of technology, right, is to take out that manual process and have everything streamlined. And, you know, we hope to work with you guys and give you guys our pointers on how we would like to do that. We're not quite there yet. It's still, we do see some pockets of manual entry that we have to work towards, you know, streamlining more efficiently. But yes, that's kind of where we are now and where we would like to be is definitely a streamlined workflow where it just automates.
And I'll just add a note of the fact that the technology can support those streamlined workflows because we have survey capabilities. We have like field mobility applications that just makes the technology very accessible and mobile, and provides a venue and a channel for information to be input. Then instead of managing things in a spreadsheet, information can flow into the platform and then managed on the platform. So, but of course, there's a lot behind figuring out the people part of the processes to streamline those workflows, and because all this is dependent on the engagement of the working groups, the community, and everyone involved in curating that data.
Thanks so much.
So I'll work with Dr. Hernandez and Celeste and Kaimana to schedule a meeting so we could continue these discussions further that are more about the data and the data management. But so that was the last question we had time to answer today. We are running a little over time, so I want to thank everyone for sticking around this long. And if there are any further questions, please feel free to send me an email at swadell@triton.uog.edu, and I'll do my best to assist you. And now I'd like to give the screen to Lieutenant Governor Joshua Tenorio, who serves as co-chair of the G3 Steering Committee, for closing remarks.
Thank you, Lauren. Celeste, thank you so much, you and your team, for establishing this partnership with us. I remember when we met initially at the Island Sustainability Conference at the University of Guam, and then when I took the governor's seat to join you and everybody for the launch of the Local Islands 2030 network. We talked about a very good, strong opportunity for partnership with Hawai Green Growth. And that really was, that underscored, and captured the interest and the commitment that the governor and I have to the 17 Sustainable Development Goals of the United Nations, and applying it not only to Guam, but to our region. So I do like to say that I think there's plenty of opportunity for the US Pacific to partner together, get that, especially, and thank God I have to say, in this Biden-Harris administration. The last few years have been a little difficult trying to push this agenda and get attention. There has been some, I have to say, but I do expect that the opportunities are going to be expanded a bit more for support for this kind of governance structure, and for the mission that we all have. Really is centered on trying to touch back to the roots that we have as islanders, being self-sustaining. And I just wanted to say that I really do appreciate the partnership. Of course, this partnership is in furtherance of one of the Sustainable Development Goals itself. And I want to pledge to you our partnership with Hawai Green Growth and Guam Green Growth as we address sustainable development in the greater Pacific. I do want to recognize our colleagues from the Micronesia Challenge. Many times, the island of Guam, because of its political status, has not played a leading role in our region in addressing sustainable development, climate change, and elsewhere. Of course, we do have experts within the government that are very much integrated in the work we do in the region and in the Pacific and in the nation. But this opportunity gives the people of Guam an opportunity to take their rightful role in the world, leading efforts and showing the best that we possibly can do here on Guam. We have a long tradition of sustainability. We have a long tradition of respect that is ingrained in the land and in the sea. And I'm very confident that the help that you're giving us is going to help advance all of the different things that we want to pursue in the Guam Green Growth. So thank you very much to everybody in the steering committee and in the working groups. I do want to thank all of you for the time and attention that you have given us, and to President Christ thank you for being such an excellent sponsor for this, a partner, and Dr. Shelton and Lauren and the rest of the G3 team and the Center for Island Sustainability, thank you for your excellent work. You've been doing this for years, even prior to our taking office, but I think that we've been able to capture the movement and the efforts that you've made and adopt them for the government. And I hope that we're also playing a good role in seeing the mission of the Center for Island Sustainability to fruition. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Lieutenant Governor Tenorio. It's a pleasure to work on sustainability for our island, and your active role in the G3 Steering Committee has made the G3 initiative much more achievable. So thank you for that. This closes our program for today. Thank you again to Governor Leon Guerrero and the G3 Working Group members in attendance today for participating in this meeting. And on behalf of the G3 initiative, I'd like to thank today's presenters, Celeste Connors and Kaimana Bingham, from Hawai Green Growth, and Tong Kingman and Gretchen Chiquez from Esri for joining us today. We look forward to our continued partnership to achieve a sustainable, equitable, and prosperous future for our islands. And thank you to our friends and partners affiliated with Guam Green Growth, Hawai Green Growth, and Micronesia Challenge who have joined in today to learn more about the application and development of the Aloha Challenge Dashboard as a critical tool to track progress towards our localized sustainable development goals, which we are all so eager to achieve together. Sizuas Ma'asi, and have a great day.